Welcome to the Part 175 Recycling Reporting Law Overview. My name is Amy Lafferty, and I will be giving you an overview of the statute today, including what it does, who it affects, and what the requirements are for complying. What is Part 175? Part 175 is the Recycling Reporting Law, an amendment of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act of 1994. It requires what the law defines as recycling establishments to both register and report with the Department of Environmental Quality annually or quarterly. This helps determine how much and what is being recycled within the state, assess progress in correlation with the governor's recycling goals, and help the DEQ determine where to best focus our efforts to increase recycling in Michigan. Why do we need Part 175? In 2014, Governor Snyder set a statewide goal of doubling Michigan's recycling rate. At the time of the initiation of this goal, Michigan's municipal recycling rate was at 15%, and the goal was to reach 30%. While this rate has increased since then, we still have a lot we can do to help achieve this overall objective. Part 175 helps address both the lack in current data about recycling and the need to really know what is going on with recyclable materials in Michigan. This law helps the department assess its progress and help determine where we need to go from here. By ensuring the reports from mandatory reporters are kept confidential, we are hoping to get accurate information from the establishments that are engaged in recycling throughout our state. Who is affected by Part 175? To start, in Section 17501, the law defines a recycling establishment as an establishment engaged in recycling of or brokering of reportable recyclable materials. Recycling is defined in the statute as an action or process such as separation, sorting, baling, or shipping applied to reportable recyclable materials for the purposes of reuse or conversion into raw materials or new products. Therefore, if your establishment separates, sorts, bales, ships, or processes any of the reportable recyclable materials we will discuss in a moment with the intention of reuse or conversion into raw materials or new products, then the requirements of this law apply to you. As I mentioned in the previous slide, reportable recyclable materials are defined in Section 17501 as any of 7 materials that are household or commercial waste and delivered to a recycling establishment for recycling. The 7 types of materials that are covered by the law are glass, paper and paper products, plastic and plastic products, ferrous metal including white goods, non-ferrous metal, textiles, and single-stream recyclable materials that include any of the above materials. Exemptions for reportable recyclable materials include materials or products that contain iron, steel, or non-ferrous metals that are directed to or received by a person subject to the Scrap Metal Regulatory Act, materials generated from shredding or dismantling of motor vehicles or motor vehicle parts, beneficial use byproducts, or covered electronic devices reported under Part 173. Even if you fit the definition of a recycling establishment and recycle any of the reportable recyclable materials, there are a few exemptions that the law specifies. An establishment is exempt from registering and reporting if they recycle a total of fewer than 100 tons per year. For example, if you recycle 50 tons of glass, 25 tons of textiles, and 25 tons of paper, then you would not be exempt because your total amount of materials recycled would be over 100 tons. Other exemptions are for retail establishments that bale cardboard packaging for off-site shipment or collect returnable beverage containers for transfer to a recycling establishment. End users of reportable recyclable materials such as paper mills, steel mills, foundries, etc. that convert reportable recyclable materials into new products or raw materials are also exempt. Finally, establishments that only ship reportable recyclable materials to the statutorily defined registered recycling establishments but do not engage in any recycling themselves are exempt from registering and reporting. A final exemption is for establishments that are subject to the Scrap Metal Regulatory Act, Public Act 429 of 2008. If an establishment is only engaged in recycling materials that contain iron, steel, or non-ferrous metals and are directed to or received by a person subject to the Scrap Metal Regulatory Act, then they are also exempt from the requirements. Although these exemptions exist, we still encourage and welcome exempt establishments to register and report voluntarily. The registration and reporting system the department is using has been set up to distinguish the difference between mandatory reporters, or those defined as a recycling establishment in statute, and voluntary reporters, which includes establishments such as collection sites, drop-off sites, establishments that are exempt from statute, and more. The first requirement of the law is for recycling establishments to register annually with the department. Registrations must be completed by July 1st before the fiscal year. For example, for fiscal year 2017, an establishment must register by July 1st, 2016. If you are a new recycling establishment and begin operating between June 1st and December 1st, you have 30 days to register after being established. If you begin operating any other time throughout the year, you may wait until the July 1st deadline to register. Since there is no cost to register with the program, we encourage recycling establishments to register whenever they get into the business. Registration forms include the recycling establishment's name, location, postal mailing address, electronic mailing address, telephone number, and the recycling establishment's contact person information. It is used to keep track of who will be reporting and how to get in contact with them. The other main requirement of the law is for recycling establishments to report the amount of materials received and shipped by the establishment with the department. Only statutorily defined recycling establishments, also known as mandatory reporters, are required to report. However, mandatory reporters are only required to report on the amount of reportable recyclable materials, which are the 7 types of materials discussed earlier in this tutorial, that they both ship and receive at their establishment. Voluntary reporters can report on a wider variety of materials. All reporters have the option of choosing to report either annually or quarterly. An establishment may choose a different option for reporting each fiscal year, but may not switch their option in the middle of the fiscal year. If an establishment opts to report annually, reports are due by November 15th of each year. If an establishment chooses to report quarterly, the first report is due by February 15th and covers the amount of material shipped and received from October 1st to December 31st of the previous year. The second report is due by May 15th and covers materials recycled from January 1st to March 31st. The third quarterly report is due by August 15th and covers April 1st to June 30th. The final and fourth quarterly report is due by November 15th and covers materials from July 1st to September 30th. All materials must be reported in tons. However, the online system that will be used will automatically convert cubic yards and pounds into tons. All information received by the Department of Environmental Quality regarding mandatory reporters will be kept confidential, is Freedom of Information Act exempt, and will not be released. The DEQ is limited as to the information that may be released regarding recycling activities of the recycling establishments registered under the law. That information is limited to aggregate numbers, a grand total of tons recycled statewide, of each reportable recyclable material. Any information that could potentially lead to the identification of a facility and the amount of materials they process or recycle will be kept confidential as required by the law. For more information on mandatory reporters versus voluntary reporters, including who is included in each category, what their requirements are, and more, check out the Mandatory versus Voluntary Reporting tutorial or the Part 175 Frequently Asked Questions on the DEQ Recycling website. What do I need to know about reporting? The system that will be in use for establishments to both register and report is an online portal called Re-TRAC. Information about how to register with Re-TRAC will be discussed in other tutorial videos and on the website www.michigan.gov/DEQ-recycling. You can also check out a webinar that gives an overview of the requirements and the system. Now you have it, a basic overview of Part 175. You may find the statute online at www.michigan.gov/DEQ-recycling and click the At Your Recycling Facility tab and select Part 175, Public Act 55 of 2016 if you would like to review the full statute. Thank you for your participation and cooperation in our efforts to increase recycling in Michigan and identify the areas where efforts should be focused to support this goal. Please review the upcoming tutorial videos, the webinar, visit our website, and feel free to reach out if you have any further questions. You may contact me at laffertya@michigan.gov. Thanks and have a great day.